Hello and welcome, listeners, to another episode of Inner Peace, Better Health with your host, Sana. Today, we are diving into a topic that's equal parts mysterious and deeply spiritual. Now, imagine a world where the living can help the dead, where grief can transform into healing, and where the veil between this life and the next becomes a little less daunting. Intrigued, right? You are in the right place, listeners. Our guest today is none other than Tina Erwin, a ghost helper extraordinaire. Tina's mission is as fascinating as it is profound, listeners. She teaches the living how to help ghosts. Yes, ghosts cross over into the heaven world, drawing on her lifelong studies of metaphysics and her impressive 20-year career in the Navy as a commander. Tina brings both a mystical and practical perspective to life, death, and everything in between. She's also the author of 8 books on metaphysics, offering deep insights into the unseen world. Listeners, ghosts just seem to find Tina. They are drawn to her like moths to a flame. And today she's here to share her experiences, wisdom, and tools, including the crossing over prayer that can help us connect with the divine, heal our grief, and even assist souls who are stuck. So grab your curiosity and let's explore the extraordinary, out of the world conversation. So Tina, welcome to the show, and it's an absolute honor to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I am just thrilled and delighted. Told all my friends I was doing this podcast because I was so excited about it. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Tina. Tina, how did you first realize you had this unique ability to help ghosts, spirits? Was there a defining moment for you?
There was a defining moment for me, yes. I had some ability as a child after I met my husband, and we've been married 51 years now. After I met him, I think we made a major past life connection, and a lot of emotional and spiritual things began to open up for me. And we're both in the Navy, we both had active careers. So you can have a really active professional career and still be really psychic, and then use it in a practical way. We moved into a really haunted house in Charleston, South Carolina, on the East Coast of the United States. I think everything there is haunted. And I didn't know how to help this ghost, and he nearly drove us crazy, knocking on walls. And at one point he got into bed with me, and I made it my mission to learn how to I thought I was going to, quote, get rid of the ghost.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn that was not the right attitude. I don't need to get rid of the ghost. I need to help the ghost. And over a period of time, I realized that you can help a ghost to cross over. And that means that we live in the third dimension, a place of time and space and gravity.
Mm-hmm.
When you die and the silver cord that anchors the soul inside the body is cut, you move from the third dimension to what's called the fourth dimension.
Mm-hmm.
That's a place of no time, no space, and no gravity. A place where you can travel with the speed of thought. But there's no one to guide you. There's no street signs. It's very confusing. And so when I began to do enormous studying work and talking to people, and then realizing how do you help a child who has died, who's looking for someone to show them the way?
Mm-hmm.
And over a period of time, I learned how to cross them over. And then I felt that I cannot be the only one who knows this. If your child dies, you shouldn't have to go find a medium who's going to charge you a lot of money to cross your child over, or your grandmother or your husband, or if your son takes his own life. You should have that power. And I wrote the crossing over prayer, and it's been tested by people privately all over the world, and it works remarkably well. So that's a little bit of an understanding of how I came to be in this position.
Wow. Oh, that is really, really inspiring. Wow. So, Tina, life after death, it's such a mystery. There are so many misconceptions attached to it. But there are many things, many concepts around it, which, normal people, people like us, I'm not sure. I don't have the right words, but what insights have your experiences with ghosts given you about what happens when we die? We have heard so many that there's a white light, you get through a passage, and then you get to a world where there is nothing. So, would you like to throw some light on this?
I would love to do that. And again, I am grateful for this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
When you die, all the body systems shut down. It's a mechanical process. And the Tibetans, in the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, written by Sogyal Rinpoche, has the best description of what happens at death. And I want to make sure your listeners have some resources. When that happens, then you exit the body, but your soul is intact and you take all your memories with you. And you enter this world that, whether it happens quickly or your death takes a long time to happen, it's always the same. It's like the lights in the building are shut off and you leave. All the body systems shut down. And so you enter this world it can be dark. If you're a person who has embraced some spiritual belief, and I'm really careful about that, there's many, many great religions all over the world, all of them believing in God and this connection to the divine. We're going to go back to that place. But we have a journey to go once we die. We leave the body, and then what? And the 23rd Psalm, "Lo, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death," actually describes it. I will fear no evil. You're going to walk through this dark place. And when you invite angels to help you or God, all of a sudden now you have a pathway to the light. But if you die suddenly, you may not know you're dead. This is a huge issue. If you're died in battle or you're in a car wreck, you're still you. You didn't change. You still have your memories. You're still who you've always been. Your personality doesn't change. If you were a murderer in death, in life, you're you're a pretty bad soul in death. You don't become saintly because you're dead. I discovered that people who commit suicide are always so sorry, and they hang around the living, creating suicidal ideation in the relatives they've left behind. You really have to cross them over.
Mm-hmm.
I actually just released my 9th book about 2 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
Children's Psychic People. And I have a massive discussion of what happens after death and what it's like to be a ghost and not understand you're dead. So what can the living do to help the dead and to cross them over without having to go find a medium or have somebody flip useless cards and do something like tarot, which is really not a good thing? I wrote the crossing over prayer so that anyone, anytime, any place can say this prayer if they think there's a ghost near them. I mean, you can be traveling and a ghost finds your inner light, your goodness. I mean, you're just a good person going about your day, and the next thing you know, you feel like you're not alone. Well, you can say this prayer, and I encourage people to say it 3 times with a lot of conviction in their voice.
Mm-hmm.
When they do that, they're basically giving direction to the person who died. They're requesting angels for the soul. They're requesting angels to guide the soul into the heaven world to be with God. And then they're expressing gratitude to God and the angels. Once the soul is crossed over, then, and they don't have unfinished business. I don't know where that came up. Oh, they have unfinished business. No, they don't. Some of them don't even know they're dead. Or they're bewildered, or they're sad. Some of them grieve. A lot of people grieve their own death.
Mm.
But once they've crossed over into this beautiful light, it's so bright and so beautiful and so loving and so filled with hope. People you have known and loved from other times and places and past lives will meet you and welcome you. You sit down with counselors of divine wisdom who will help you review the life you just lived, to help you to understand, why did I have that difficult parent? Why was alcohol hard for me? Why did I take my life? Why was I murdered? Why did I die at 6 months old? So these questions can have answers, not by living people, but by the higher realms that open the soul to so much love and light and healing that it's very difficult for a mortal person to place into words the beauty of the experience.
Mm. Wow. Beautiful, beautiful, Tina. Also, how do you explain the presence of ghosts or spirits scientifically or metaphysically? What keeps them earthbound?
That's an excellent question. And the answer is that it goes back to basic physics. Energy is neither created nor destroyed.
Yeah.
That's physics 101.
Yeah.
If energy is neither created nor destroyed, the energy that animated the physical mortal frame has to continue. Again, that is a law of physics. But it doesn't have to stay in this dimension. It can move between dimensions. We came from somewhere when we were born. That spark of egg and sperm uniting creates a light pathway. I actually saw this astounding video recently.
Mm-hmm.
And that pathway opens up a doorway for a soul to enter the mother's body. It's a beautiful experience. So when the soul is finished with the mortal frame, it leaves the mortal frame and it makes a pathway back, and it goes into the fourth dimension, which is also called the ether. And when you send prayer, prayer is projected through the ether. This is why when you're a ghost and you ricochet between beloved family members, you travel at the speed of thought. It's astonishing. When my mother died in North Carolina, I was in my San Diego kitchen. I don't live there now anymore. I could feel that she was standing beside me. She came to say goodbye to each of us when she died.
Mm-hmm.
And then I eventually crossed her over
Mm-hmm.
because she wanted to stick around. Some people want to stick around and just see what's going on, or sometimes the living hold on to people. But getting back to the physics of it, once you're in that ether, that energy of who you have always been continues. The energy of the soul isn't destroyed. Again, a law of physics. When you move into the light, the energy of who you have always been continues into the fifth dimension of the light. And that brings great peace and happiness to the soul. No matter who you are, what you've done, without judgment or prejudice, souls are on the path of evolution. And sometimes they take a darker path. But crossing them over helps to restore all the elements of the soul. That's in the 23rd Psalm. He restoreth my soul. You have to cross over to get to that place.
Wow. Wow. That's really a great explanation, Tina. Um, so many listeners they may wonder about prayer's role in spirituality. So how does the crossing over prayer work, and why is it so impactful?
The crossing over prayer works because it's an extremely specific prayer.
Mm-hmm.
You address God and you make a request on behalf of this particular soul. You ask the angels to take this soul and cross them over into the heaven world. You ask for them to have healing. You acknowledge this is your service, the service of the living for the dead. A prayer is a request that moves into the ether. This is why prayer is amazing. You can be 9,000 miles away and send prayer to someone or a thought to someone, and it travels instantaneously because it is not encumbered by time or space. These are very important esoteric as well as scientific concepts. And this is important to understand because this relates directly to string theory and quantum entanglement. Not to get super complicated, but string theory is we're all connected.
Mm-hmm.
We're all connected through what are called Aka chords, AKA. These are the chords that emanate from our solar plexus that connect us to every place we've ever been, every person we've ever met, everything we've ever touched, every experience we've ever had. We're connected. The experiences created through those Aka chords create the Akashic records, AKA being the first part of that word, Akashic, which means that you are creating these experiences that then define your Akashic records. So that energy that goes with you
Mm-hmm.
is very powerful. You want to make sure that that energy that is your soul is protected. So when you say this prayer, which I can certainly say on the air if you like,
Yeah, please.
so everyone can hear it, you are sending your living energy to the energy of a person who has died or a battlefield of souls who have died. It's not limited by number. Then you're free of the heaviness of a mortal frame and mortal life. When you can begin to embrace those concepts, all of a sudden your world changes.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you like me to read the prayer?
Please, 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 Tina.
This is the crossing over prayer. Dearest Lord above, I humbly request that you take any and all souls who have found my divine light of service into the heaven world right now. I ask that an angel wrap each soul in a blanket of healing light right now. I pray that every single soul will use the light bridge provided by my angelic team to transition into the heaven world right now. I send love and healing to all souls, no matter how they died, no matter their level of guilt, without any judgment or prejudice whatsoever, right now. May the light of your love, Father, embrace and keep all of these souls now and forever. Amen.
Beautiful.
This prayer is available for absolutely free on ghosthelpers.com. It's also in the Crossing Over Prayer book. And the reason this prayer uses the term right now is because there's no time in the fourth dimension. And when you say right now, you indicate to all of the angelic realms when you want the action to take place, which is right now.
Mm. Beautiful, beautiful, Tina. Also, as you mentioned, what role does love play in all of this? Can love truly transcend death? And how does it connect us to the divine?
Love is always the answer.
Yeah.
And love is what someone said, well, how would you describe the heaven world? I would describe it as love in action, love in reality, love personified. The glow of love that we feel, if you think of someone you love, your husband, your child, your parent, your friend.
Mm.
I had a dream about a friend I hadn't seen in, I don't know, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And in this dream, I was filled with so much love and I was projecting it to her.
Mm.
And it changes the physiology of the soul. And the body is made up of water molecules. And Masaru Emoto, in his wonderful work, Messages from Water, we know that water is consciousness. When we fill ourselves with love, when we fill ourselves with the energies of blessing and prayer in any language or dialect, when we fill ourselves with the energy of love, it energizes us, it raises our frequency, it enables us to project, it expands our auric field, it helps us to heal illness and disease. Because disease is body being not at ease, dis-ease. When we are in love, we are creative and expansive. When we are not in love, we are depressed and sad. Yes, there's theme and variation. But when you're sending prayer, you are sending many theme and variation elements of love. That's why the Crossing Over Prayer book has 88 prayers that help the living and the dead. Let's say that your child takes their own life. I mean, I hear this every day. Or your husband, came back from some conflict, and died. You don't stop loving him because they're not physically present. Love transcends time and space. Love transcends eons and dimension. So if you have when my 6-year-old niece died, she was sat on the sofa and said, "Mommy, I feel hot," and she died. Well, none of us stopped loving her because she died.
Mm.
Maybe we loved her even more because she wasn't there, because we appreciated her more. But our depression at her loss doesn't help her, and it doesn't help us. Her sadness at having died isn't helping us because she's grieving. We can't differentiate her grief from our grief.
Mm.
When she was crossed over, we no longer felt her grief anymore. We are now alone with our own grief and learning the process of healing our own grief and learning from the experience that we had with the person who has left us physically. But emotionally, these ties that bind are with us for eternity.
Wow. Great, great, Tina. So before we wrap up, for skeptics who say ghosts are just psychological projections, how do you respond to that perspective?
I go back to the fact that ghosts have been discussed since we have counted time on Earth. Every single culture on Earth discusses ghosts.
Yeah.
Every culture on Earth has had experiences with ghosts, whether it's, Abraham Lincoln walking the White House to, a, when my cat died when I was 7, I saw her ghost walk the house when I was a little girl. I didn't know everyone couldn't see her. So the manifestation is a physics element that the energy of a ghost didn't go away. Once you cross them over, you won't see, feel, sense, or hear that ghost anymore, which tells you it was real in the first place. If energy is neither created nor destroyed, the energy of a ghost, the energy of the soul, continues because it's a law of physics. And you don't get to select which physics law you choose to believe. Either that physics law is true for everything, including mortal bodies, or it's not true for anything. You cannot have it both ways.
True. Lovely, lovely, Tina. Um, also, for listeners or for those who have never had a spiritual or a ghostly experience, what is the first step to opening up to this world, Tina?
I would suggest prayer.
Mm.
And many cultures and many different faiths have some very profound and wonderful prayers. I wrote a prayer book, but there are prayers all over the world. When you open yourself up to the light of the divine through prayer without prejudice or judgment, you're not praying for someone to change to your will. You're simply praying for the love of the person.
Yeah.
Then you are filling yourself with the light of the divine, which will make you attractive on some level to souls who need help. When you have the tools in the Crossing Over Prayer book and in this newest book, Psychic Children, Psychic People, on what to do with a ghost, and all of these different prayers to cross over a ghost. I have prayers for suicide, prayers for murder, murdered souls. You then become empowered on your spiritual path. And the true point of a spiritual path is the service of others. When the great spiritual beings who have walked this earth were here, it was for the service of humanity. It wasn't to be clever or have great power. It was very humbly for the service of being able to help the living and the dead.
Mm. Lovely, lovely, Tina. And if our listeners they wish to connect with you and explore more about the crossing over prayer we just listened today, how they can do that.
The Crossing Over Prayer is available in a video form, it's on the website, written out. You can just see it, and you're welcome to use it. And there are prayers on this website for suicide and murder. And if your animal dies, you want to cross your animal over.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the Crossing Over Prayer book, which is available as a paperback. These are on Amazon, Kindle, and an audiobook. Psychic Children, Psychic People is also available in audio, Kindle, and paperback, which helps you more understand what to do with a ghost, especially if you have psychic ability. And it took me almost 10 years to get that book out. I know there's so much in it. It's a very big book. And a lot of edits with something that powerful.
Yeah.
Then as you're doing these things or exploring in a benevolent and spiritually correct way in accordance with spiritual law, you will grow spiritually.
Mm.
Just in a natural, positive, gentle way, which is a very good way to grow spiritually.
Mm. Lovely, lovely, Tina. We'll have all the details in the show notes for our listeners. And thank you so, so much for this fascinating conversation, Tina, on this less talked about, but really, really ethereal, really deep topic. From helping ghosts find peace to healing our own grief, your insights have really reminded us that spirituality and love truly bridge worlds. So, thank you so much, Tina, for giving us this opportunity to explore.
Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to share this information with your listeners. The more we help each other, the good of the one is expands to the good of the many, and it makes the world a much better place.
Absolutely. Listeners, whether you are a believer or a skeptic, one thing is clear for sure. There is so much more to explore in this journey called life. So don't forget to check out the Crossing Over Prayer and more of Tina's incredible work at ghosthelpers.com. You can refer the show notes for more details along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. And if you resonated with today's conversation, please share it with a friend or your loved ones and leave us a review. It really helps spread the light and wisdom to others seeking inner peace and better health. Until next time, this is your host Sana reminding you to stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep seeking those extraordinary connections that make life and even the afterlife so remarkable. Take care.